Welcome to the Narrative Inventory Quick Start Guide. We're here in the narrative content examples, which shows you what all the different narrative products do for your game. But Narrative Inventory adds a high quality, multiplayer ready inventory system to your Unreal Engine game in an instant. It's really easy to use. It comes with a equipment system as well, so you have clothing items that you can equip to your player, and we'll show you how to make all of these in today's video. The system is incredibly flexible. You can make whatever crazy item you want. Here is an item that when you use it, it activates a light. You can turn a light on or off. I even made a more complex one, and it only works if you're standing within 5 meters of the remote. Otherwise, it gives you an error message. I mean, the limits on the sorts of items you can make are crazy. It also comes with a looting system, whether that be looting from a chest, or if you want to actually trade some items with a follower, you could also do that. And in 1.6, if you're watching when 1.6 is out, you also have shops. And these essentially act as lootable chests. However, you actually need to have the right amount of currency. You can see down here, the shops and your player's currency are displayed. And you can open shops from dialogue as well. If you're using Narrative 3 dialogues, you can see I can ask to see this person's shop. It's going to open it up. Andre's Fine Garments, I've called this one. We can buy some items and you can see it removes the correct amount of currency. And it gives error messages like this hoodie. I've priced it very high. You can see if I try to sell that, he actually does not have enough money to complete the trade. As I just showed you with the shops, your Narrative 3 quests and dialogues plug in with the inventory system really well. They're built to just integrate seamlessly. Here, for example, I can ask this NPC for an item, and he can add a cupcake to my inventory from his dialogue. So it's all built to just connect up together really nicely. You also get really good gamepad support because it's built on top of Common UI. You can see that I can navigate through my items, I can favorite items with the gamepad, I can tab through categories here, I can toggle list view on or off. So lots of really good stuff. And if I switch back to a keyboard, you can see it just switches all the prompts out really nicely as well. And thanks to the save system as well, it will remember all of the items your player had and all of the stuff they had equipped, even when they come back to the game. It's all saved, and we'll show you how to use the save system in this video as well. To get started, we're going to make sure that Narrative Common UI and Narrative Inventory are both installed to Unreal Engine 5.3. Links to these will be in the description. Inventory is a paid plugin, but Common UI is completely free to download. Next up, you'll want to download the starter project. It's in the description below. It's basically just the third-person project, but it comes with some item thumbnails and some stuff, so we don't have to waste any time setting that up. And make sure you have Unreal Engine 5.3 installed, because that's what we are using today. And then we shall open this up. Inside of the project, make sure that you go to Edit Plugins, and then under Narrative, make sure that Narrative Common UI and Narrative Inventory are both enabled, and it will ask you to restart. Go ahead and click Restart now. Alright, we're back in the project now, and if I go in here, we have both of the plugins enabled, and so now we're going to set up Common UI, which is required for the UI that comes with Narrative Inventory. So we're going to go to Common Input Settings. Under Input Data, you just want to select Narrative Input Data. Platform Input, we're going to go down to Windows, which is what we're using, and add 2 controller datas. Add keyboard, and I'm using an Xbox controller today. We're going to add that as well. Under default gamepad name, you just want to use generic, and that's pretty much it. The other one is you need to search for viewport, and under game viewport client, make sure you use the common game viewport client. And now you're pretty much good to go. Now you'll be able to use Common UI. It will again ask you to restart, so we're going to click Restart now again. Okay, so I know that was a lot of boring setup, but now we can actually get started and add Narrative Inventory into our game. So if you hit play, we've basically just got a project here. It's got a metahuman in it. Other than that, it's basically the third-person template project. What we're going to do is go to third-person blueprints, and we've already added a player state just to speed up the tutorial. If you open it up, we're just going to add an inventory component to our player state. And that's basically all you need to do to add the inventory system to the game. You can see there are a few options we can customize. And you can also choose to add some default items to the player's inventory. There's only really like 2 here that you can add. Example item A and B. We're going to be creating a whole bunch of different items in this video, but we'll just add those for now. Compile and save. And the equipment system that comes with narrative inventory, all you need to do to set the equipment system up is add a equipment component to your pawn. So we're going to open up the third person character metahuman, and to him we're also going to add a equipment component. And the equipment component is responsible for changing your clothing meshes as well. And so all you have to do is on begin play, you can see begin play is right up here. We're just going to set up the equipment component by dragging it in and doing initialize. It needs to know a couple of things. It needs to know what your leader pose component is, which is just the mesh. And then it needs to know all of your clothing meshes so that when you equip a clothing item, it knows where to put the clothing. So this is very easy to set up. You can see torso. I'm going to plug that in. I'm going to add a value for legs. I'm going to plug legs in. I don't think I have a hands in this project. Feet I will add as well. You can add as many as you want, and there's even some extra custom slots there just in case there aren't enough for your particular project. We're going to compile, save. Right, so how do you actually start using the inventory? If I hit play, I actually do have an inventory, right? But how do we see it, right? How do we open up the inventory screen? The way that we're going to do this is we'll right click in this folder here, we'll go to user interface and add a widget blueprint. And we'll just say widget blueprint HUD. So this is going to be our game's heads up display. And you could add a crosshair and stuff like that, but we're going to keep it nice and simple. We'll just add a canvas panel. And if you search for narrative, we're going to add the narrative HUD. Widget blueprint narrative HUD. Drag that on as well. And make sure that it takes up the whole screen like this. Compile, save. And this narrative HUD can basically any narrative menu can be added to this narrative HUD. It's really simple actually. We're going to click the is variable and I'll show you how we use this. So we'll go into our controller and we will search for begin play. And on begin play, we will create the HUD that we just made. Your game might already have some HUD in it, but since we're making this one, we're going to add to viewport. And actually, I'm also going to right click and store this in a variable. We'll say HUD. So to open the inventory screen up, I know this has been a little bit long-winded. Plug that in like that. To open the inventory screen, all you have to do, we'll just search for tab. I'm going to add a tab keyboard event. You can use enhanced input if you're using that, but I'm just keeping it nice and simple here. Drag in HUD. Get the narrative HUD. And open menu. Now, if you're using a whole bunch of different narrative tools, you might see a bunch of different menus appear here. But the one we're going to select is inventory. We want to open the inventory menu when you press tab. So it's actually pretty simple. If you wanted to support a gamepad as well, so I want it to be the Y button on my Xbox controller. So we'll do face button, top, and just plug that in as well. So now when I press Y on my gamepad, it will also open the inventory screen. We'll compile, save, and try this out. If I hit play and press tab, you can see it opens up my inventory. And it even gives you a nice little player preview. Let's actually make this full screen. Here we are. And if I open it up, you can see those 2 example items that I added to the inventory. They are in here as well. And they have some little properties. You can see this one when you use it as a recharge time on it. This one, it consumes it when you use it. But let's add some custom items because those ones are kind of boring. So in the content folder, I'm going to make a items folder. So I've made an items folder and we're going to make another folder. We'll call it food because I'm going to make some food items that the player can consume. And so we'll make a new item. We're going to go to narrative items and narrative item. I'm going to call this BPI underscore food. So this is going to be the base class for our food item. I'm going to right click on this and I'll make a food underscore chicken nugget. And I'll duplicate that and I'll make another one. I'll call it food underscore grape. So I'm making two different food items here, the chicken nugget and the grape. Generally, food should have a health value associated with it. So I'm going to open my food base class, add a variable health. We'll make that a float. And let's make our food do something when we use it. We'll override the onUse function. And in a real game, you would grab the player and you would add some health to the player. But in our case, we'll just keep it really simple. We'll just do string append you healed. And then we'll just plug in the health. So this will at least do something when we use the food item. If we go to class defaults, we want to set up our food item. So let's say by default, food heals 20 health unless you set it to something else. And the weight will say by default 0.5. And we'll make it stackable. You can see stackable is checked. I'm going to make the max stack size 10. I'm going to make the use action text eat because you eat food, but this might be equip if you're making an equipable item. Or, you know, whatever the item's use text is. And then we're also going to do consume on use. So this will take one of the item out of our inventory when we use it, which is obviously perfect for food. It should remove the food item when you use it. And we'll do a default description. We'll just say it's some food. So if we compile and save the food item and open up our chicken nugget and our grape, you can see that it has health. So let's say that grapes heal 5 health. Let's say that chicken nuggets heal 25 health. And I've included a chicken nugget mesh and a chicken nugget thumbnail. We also need to put in the item name, chicken nugget. A delicious, unhealthy chicken nugget. I'm going to say that it only weighs 0.2 kgs. Obviously, you can go crazy and fill all this information out. And I will compile and save our chicken nugget item. Okay, so unfortunately I forgot the grape mesh, so I'm just going to set it to be the apple mesh that comes with this project. Doesn't really matter, these are just some example items. So we'll compile our grape and chicken nuggets and fill the information out, whatever you like, make it heal, whatever you want. And back inside of our player state, we're going to click on our inventory and we'll get rid of those cube and pyramid items. Let's actually put some food in the player's inventory. We'll say chicken nugget, grape. And you can actually go down to the item here and under quantity, you can put a higher quantity. I'm going to give the player 5 chicken nuggets and I'm going to give the player 10 grapes. We will compile, save, and hit play. And now you can see I have the grape and I have the chicken nugget. Very cool. And I can click it and it uses the item. You can see it even says you healed 5. But there is something that kind of sucks about our item. It doesn't actually tell you on the UI here how much it heals, which is not very helpful. So let's add a custom stat. By default, it shows you the weight and the quantity. How do we add more values? This is actually very easy. We're going to go into BPI food. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to stats. We'll add a stat called health. And you need to override the getString variable function. You'll see how this works in a sec. It's actually very, very simple. We'll switch on string. And we'll add a new variable. Health. Plug the default into that one there. And then copy the return node. And if it's health, just plug in the health. So because there's a string variable, health, and we've got a stat health added, because it has the stat added, it will try and get a string variable for health. And because we've implemented health, it'll now show up on the UI. Check this out. If we open our inventory, hover over the grape, look, it says how many points of health the grape heals, and same for the chicken nugget. Another cool thing you can do is you can use these rich text tags. I've put narrative.boldglow around chicken nugget, and I made sure to put the end tag on there as well. And what this actually does is it styles the item's description in the UI. You can see a delicious, healthy chicken nugget. Very, very cool. But another thing you can do is those string variables can also go in descriptions. This is quite a cool feature. So if you want to put it in a description, any of your string variables, a delicious, unhealthy chicken nugget, it heals, and then you can do curly brackets and then put one of your string variables in there, and you can actually inject the string variable into the description. So what that'll do, check it out. A delicious, unhealthy chicken nugget, it heals 25. And this is very cool because if you ever change the health that the chicken nugget heals to a different value, it'll change the description automatically. You don't have to remember to update all of your descriptions. You can see when I use the item, it says you healed the amount. And I should also mention, if I start using a gamepad, look at that. How cool is that? It switches all of my prompts over to gamepad ones. I can use items by pressing the A key. I can even drop items if I hold down X. It drops the item, it's removed it from my inventory. You can favorite items, and they'll now show up in the favorite tab. So there's quite a lot of features that just sort of work out of the box. You don't really have to do anything. But let's add some clothing to the game because we don't have any equipable items. So that would be a nice one to do now. Equipable items are already basically handled for you out of the box. In my items folder, I'm going to add a new folder. I'll just say clothing. And I'm going to make my very first equipable item. To do this, I'll go to narrative. And there's different types of equipable items. Like you could have a weapon equipable item, but clothing item specifically is already set up for you, and it will already change the clothing mesh. So this is a nice pre-made one for you, ready to go. So we're going to say BPC underscore pink shirt. So I'm going to make a nice snazzy pink shirt that we can put on. You have to do essentially the same thing that you did with your other items, right? You have to select the thumbnail. So we're going to search for pink shirt. Search for pink shirt here for my pickup mesh. Need to give it a name. Pink shirt. It's a cool pink shirt. And for the clothing mesh, we need to search for shirt and click on pink shirt. And we're looking pretty good to go. It will equip to the torso slots, so that's good. I don't need to change that. And this all looks pretty good to me. I don't think we really need to change anything here. We'll compile, save, and inside of my player state, I just have to go back to the inventory and make sure I add the pink shirt to the player's inventory. So I'm going to click on pink shirt here. And now if I hit play, I should have the pink shirt in my inventory. And if I click it, you can see it equips that item. If I click it again, it will unequip the item. And just to show you again with gamepad, still works. I can still equip it. And you can code other really cool things, like you can make items or equipable items have effects. For example, I can make this shirt make my player run faster if I have it equipped or something like that. I won't show you that for now because there's quite a lot of other stuff we want to get to. But one really cool thing, and I may as well just show you this now, is the equipable items are activatable. You can tell they're activatable because they have that little tick when you use them. So activatable items have that little tick when used. Because clothing items are activatable, this actually gets saved to the player's save game. And so when your player comes back into the game, all of their activatable items will be reactivated. So all of their clothing will be put back on just like they had it. And so let me show you this because it's very easy to set up. We're going to go into our player controller. I'll just copy that input event. I'm just going to change this to be 1, and then I'll copy that again, and I'm going to make this one 2. And the inventory component, we're in the player controller. Our inventory component is on the player state, but you can actually get it really easily by calling this function. Get inventory component, and then save. So when we press 1 on our keyboard, we're going to save, and when we press 2, we're going to load it back in. I just want to show you guys how amazing this is. It's so good. So the save system is just really, really nice. So here we have some items. I'm going to eat some of my grapes just to take that number down to 7, and we'll equip the pink shirt, right? So I've got 7 grapes, 5 nuggets, shirt equipped. I'm going to press 1 on my keyboard, and that's going to save my game. If I close the game and open it back up, and I press 2, it remembers the state of my inventory and even reactivates all of my items for me. So saving is just handled for you. You can see I've got 7 grapes. It remembered the exact number I had. It's put the shirt back on just like I had it. And it's not just clothing that's activatable. You can have a whole bunch of different activatable items that reactivate themselves. So very, very useful system. If you did want to make that pink shirt make you run faster, all you have to do is just override the handle equip function, and then you can get your player, so get owning pawn, and then you can grab their movement component and make them run faster. I'm not going to do that, but that's how you do it. It's quite simple. And yeah, we can make some more items. If we go to pink shirt and Control D to duplicate it, we can add a brown shoes. So I've made the brown shoes. I just need to remember to change the equipable slot to feet. And narrative equipment remembers what slot maps to which mesh and just sets it automatically for you. It changes it all for you. If I equip the brown shoes, you can see, nice, they go right on. And if you have a different shoe item and you equip that, I'm not going to make another pair of shoes, but if I did, if I equipped a different pair of shoes, it would unequip the already equipped shoes. So it handles all the slots and stuff for you as well. You don't have to do any of that. It's all just handled for you nicely out of the box. So the last thing that we should jump into here is looting. How do you loot from containers? Because that's something that is in narrative inventory. Last thing I'm going to show you in this video is we're going to add lootable chests. This is a thing that most games are going to probably want, is containers that can be looted from. Very common piece of functionality. So here inside of third person blueprints, I'm going to make not a new folder, I'm going to make a new blueprint actor. We'll say BP loot chest. So inventory components can be added to anything, lootable chests, shopkeepers, whatever you want. So we'll open up our loot chest here. We're going to add a static mesh. I'm going to search for chamfer cube. So we'll just make this our chest. Obviously, if we had some nice, chest mesh from the marketplace, we'd use that instead. And we're also going to add an inventory component that has the chest's items. And we'll say that our chest is filled with a brown shirt, a pink shirt, and some chicken nuggets. So some glorious loot to be had inside of our chest. We'll also add a sphere collision. You may remember at the start of the video it actually said press E to loot from container. You may be wondering why we're doing an invisible sphere instead of that. Well, the press E thing is a narrative interaction feature. I'll leave a link to narrative interaction in the description. It's really great. It does all of this looting and press E to talk. It does all that sort of stuff for you, so you don't need to set it up. But because we're not using that today, we're just using an invisible sphere, and when you walk into it, we're going to start looting automatically. We're going to drag a loot chest into the level here, and we need to code our loot chest so that when you walk into it, it starts looting from it. So we'll go to the sphere. I'm just going to go to collision presets and just do pawn. And in the event graph, on actor begin overlap, we want to get the inventory component. And then we want to set loot source. And we want to set the loot source to the chest's inventory. Compile, save. We also want to make sure that our lootable chest replicates. I'm pretty sure you'd want to do that. If we compile and save, yeah, we definitely want to have this replicated. So what we're doing here is when you walk up to the chest, we're telling your inventory component that you're now looting from the loot source. And in a networked game, the server needs to call that because we obviously don't want anyone cheating. So it's important that the server does that. That's what that little icon means. So we actually have this looting piece of UI that comes with narrative inventory. This lets you loot from chests and things like that. And it will support shop vendors soon as well. That's something that'll be supported in the future. Click on narrative inventory and then we'll click the plus where it says on begin looting. And we'll add the UI to the screen there. In this event, we're going to get our player controller from the player state. Make sure you click this one under player state here. We will cast this to our controller that we're using in this project, BP player controller. And that's where our HUD is. So if we get the HUD, and then get narrative HUD, and then open menu, and we want to open the looting menu. And we'll just plug that in like that. Let's try this out. We'll compile, save, hit play, and we'll walk up to the chest. Oh no, is it blocking our play? Hang on. Sorry guys, let me just look into this. What's going on here? If we click on our collision sphere, it is set to overlap. You want it to be overlap only pawn and not pawn. Because in our case it was blocking our player from going in there. So let's walk up to it, and you can see the looting menu has opened up. It's very, very cool. So the way it works is if you click an item in the other inventory, you will loot the item. You can see I've just looted one chicken nugget. I can also loot the shirt, but you can also store items in chests as well. So if I click some of my items, I'll be storing them. And if I use a gamepad, this is perfectly supported in gamepad as well. You can see in the bottom left corner it says loot item. If I go over here, you can see it says store item. So it's quite a lovely, robust system. So you can see I've basically stored all my items in that chest. If I go back, I can pull my items back out of there. I can equip them. So yeah, very nice. Looting, that's a new update. And I will be adding the ability for shop vendors to use the same screen as well. That'll be coming in the future. If you're watching this video by the time 1.6 is out, and it is coming out around the same time as this video, so do check, you might already have it. If you want to, you can actually create shops really easily. Here's a lootable container that uses a vendor component, and it actually checks that you have enough currency. So currency is now in the system. You can see I made this hoodie really expensive. It'll notify you if the shop can't afford to do the trade, or if you don't have enough money to complete the trade. The only difference, it's the exact same setup as a lootable chest. I'll just show you. You can also begin it from dialogues if you want. Check that out. Very nice. So the only difference is, it's the exact same setup as what I just showed you with the lootable chest. The only difference is, if we look at the chest, I just added a vendor inventory component. So instead of adding an inventory component to your chest, you would just want to search for vendor and add a vendor inventory. And the vendor inventory just knows what it's going to buy and sell items for as well. So it has some additional sort of options you can put in too. Another thing that I want to quickly touch on, because a lot of people have been asking for it, in 1.6 I added an example of spawning a pickup at the player's feet. By default, if you drop an item, it just discards it. It won't spawn a pickup. And that's because pickups are quite game specific, and I didn't want to write it into the plugin itself. So if you go into the WBP item inspector and open the drop item function here, you can search for this in the content browser, open it up. I've left this in here, and if you hook it up, it will make it so it will drop the item in front of your player. So if I hook it up, I'll show you what this does. You'll see that now that I've hooked that up, if I have an item and I drop it by clicking the drop button, you can see it drops the item here in front of my player. So I just sort of added that as an example of how you can spawn item pickups, because it's very easy to do, but I just don't want to code it into the plugin at this time, because again, it's a bit game specific. It's like, where do you want to drop it? Do you want to drop it at the player's feet? And so what pickup class do you want to use? There's a lot of sort of variability, but this is a basic example, and you can hook it up if you do want to try that out. Thanks for watching this tutorial, and I hope you decide to give Narrative Inventory a go. And if you need any help with it, we're always around in the support Discord channel, which I will leave a link to in the description below. You do have to verify your purchase before you can take part in it, but it's very easy to verify. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in the next tutorial. See you later.